All right, everybody, we are back with another, actually, with our first division preview. This time we have the Pandyan division. And up first in the loser bracket, we both have, yeah, why am I drawing a blank on these names? Mitch, I'll kind of pass it over to you.
Yeah, so last place, obviously, we're both going with Vlad Jr. crew, and that's what the general public went with as well. Interesting, Christian True North is how we know him by most people. Typically, he's a very, very competitive team. Obviously, Christian True North, or in this case, Vlad Jr. crew, sold, and he's looking at next year. I got him going 1-12. I only see one win on the schedule. I will say this about his draft, though. I am going to give him an A. So he sold everything to get some round one picks. He went Chris Olave and Jameson Williams back to back. I think great for his future. Rashad White at the end of round one as well, I think could potentially be great for his future as well. But I don't see much hope for Chris this year, 1-12.
I have Chris going 0-13. So, I mean, we're not too far off there. But you're right. I mean, Christian Olave, Jameson Winston are great picks at 106 and 107. And I know you're not a big, I don't want to say you're not a big fan of Rashad White, but him going at 116, in my opinion, is just a great pick, and it's icing on the cake for him. So I gave him an A+. Like, he's building for next year. I think in a year or two, I mean, he's going to have a great team, but this year it's just awful. Next up, we have Robert, and is he actually in the Illuminati? I believe that's actually his team name in Dynasty here, and we both have him finishing third. I don't think his team is actually that good. Last year I think he finished first in the division. You can correct me if I'm incorrect there. I gave him a B-. Like, his draft is meh at best. I mean, he has Danny Dimes as a starting quarterback, and Danny Dimes can either be great or he's going to be horrible. And I don't know which one's going to come up. He does play for the Giants, who does have a horrible offensive line, but he was QB 8, I believe, before he got injured. But the rest of the draft are just uninspiring. Like, it was a rookie draft where he had to pick kickers, and it's just a okay draft. I think he could have either built for next year, which I think he should have done. And I have him going. Actually, let's just go ahead and take a quick look. 7-6, and I actually have him making the playoffs at 8, but his team's meh, and that tells you a lot about the rest of the LOD.
I got him going 7-6, and in all honesty, Robert, 2 out of 3 division titles since we've started this thing in LOD, and he has potential to get his third, to be honest. Brady's there. He went in the draft. He went with need. He went Jared Goff and Kenny Pickett right away at quarterback because he needed those quarterbacks. But when I look at the roster, I mean, Justin Jefferson's there, Tyreek Hill at wide receiver, ETN, Zeke in his last year in Dallas. He could very well be playing for a team next year. So I don't think the roster is all that bad. I think when it comes to guys like Robert, who we kind of would say maybe he's not up to snuff as some of the other guys, the weaknesses are always at IDP. And you always see that with the owners that don't know as much as diehards like, say, myself. And again, when I look at the IDPs for Robert, that's going to be the weakness. And that's why I got him going 7-6 and third place here.
So, correction, I have him 7-6. And if you go by before Flex Week 13, I have him third. But I actually have him winning Flex Week 14 and actually finishing second. And I have him beating Zebras in Flex Week 14. I have Zebras going 8-5 in the first 13 weeks, but she splits the season series with Robert at 1-1. So with Flex rules there, that means that she has a chance to play Robert, but Robert has a chance to play her in Flex Week. And I have Zebras missing the playoff and Robert sneaking in at 8th place.
Yeah, I think that's kind of interesting. I actually got Kristen Nomore here at second, and Kristen Nomore, I think, has built a pretty good roster here. Again, how did he do it? He's got no picks for the next couple of years. Even with him doing that, I still have Nomore at 7-6 and missing the playoffs, to be honest. I only have one team making it in the playoffs this year out of the Pandyan. When I look at the draft for Nomore, I'm going to give him a B+. And the reason for the B+ is now we drafted early, of course, it's Dynasty. He got Damian Pierce at the end of round 1, which now looks like a brilliant pick. And he picked Damian Pierce after Isaiah Spiller and Sky Moore were just picked right before that. The reason why he didn't get into the A's is because he went John Mechie in round 2, which looks like a bad pick now with the leukemia diagnosis. But I think Chris has, a fairly good roster here to compete. But again, I think it's still only good enough for a 7-6 record and missing the playoffs.
As you said, we do draft early. But Zebras, Susie, she took Dobbs at 313, which, let's be honest, that's probably a steal and a half. The pick I didn't like of hers was at 415. It was the Jones wide receiver from Chicago, who's 25 years old already, I believe he is. Like, if you're building a dynasty league, like if this was redraft, it would probably be an okay pick. But it's dynasty. You're looking, you want your wide receivers to play 8-9 years down the road. So drafting a guy, 25-year-old guy, in my opinion, this doesn't make any sense. But then she took Cole Turner at 513, which, at 513 in Dynasty is pretty good, in my opinion. So I originally gave her a B-, but I'm actually going to change that. I'm just going to give her a B+. Looking at Dobbs and Cole Turner, I think those are pretty good picks late in the draft that she definitely should, pan out for her in Dynasty. And up next, you have Zebras going 1. I have No More going 1. I'll be honest with you, like the top 3 teams are from 9-5, which I have, or 9-4, I should say, which I have No More going. 8-5 for Zebras, and then 7-6 for the Illuminati. Like in my opinion, those top 3 teams could go in any order that we would want to put there. Like you said, for No More, he took Damian Pierce at 115. I mean, now that's looking like a steal at that time. It probably still was a good pick at that time because we all thought that he was probably going to take RB1 role. I gave him an A. Like, I didn't think he had a bad draft. Like I said, there's nobody in Dynasty besides one team who got less than a B, in my opinion. And yeah, I mean, I think everybody had a great draft. Just like in LOC, I think most teams had a good draft in LOC.
Yeah, I got Zebras going 8-5. The big difference here, of course, was the big Lamar trade, right? So she got Lamar from cashing my Belichick's, and now he's paired up with Trey Lance for her quarterbacks, which could turn out to be huge moneymaker. I gave her an A for the draft for the exact same reasons you said. Dobbs in round 3 is an absolute steal, and I think Cole Turner in round 5 is an absolute steal because I think he is the starting tight end in Washington. I do have concerns about her lineup, though. Antonio Gibson, one of her running backs, we know what kind of preseason training camps he's having. It's turning out to be an absolute bust. She also has Kendrick Bourne in the lineup, which I heard reports from him, too. He's sliding down that depth chart considerably in New England, but she could plug in Romeo Dobbs there. So I still think she's good enough to go 8-5. And you're right, it is a 3-horse race in the Pandyan. It's between her, Chris, and Robert, and it's going to be fun to watch.